Good afternoon. Oh, can you hear me? Test, test, test. Mic check, 1, 2. Mic check. 1, 2, 3. You want to do one?
Yeah.
Mic check.
Oh, mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our third town hall meeting. Changed up the location a little bit. Hopefully we can accommodate a few more people. Just to lay down some of the ground rules, if you want to speak, you need to grab a card from the front, a blue card, fill it out with your name and not the whole question, just the basis of your topic that you want to speak on. I'll call you up one at a time to speak. We also have some questions that we've been collecting over the last month online, and we'll also be tracking questions as they come in on Facebook. We will give priority to the folks who are joining us in person. We do ask that you limit your questions to 30 seconds, and when you're done asking the question, please take your seat to get your answer. There won't be any arguing or back and forth. We will, when we ask you to stop, we ask that you please stop. Yeah. All right, with that, can we get a volunteer from the audience to lead us in prayer?
Thank you.
Please stand.
Almighty God and Father, we ask you to come upon us with your Holy Spirit and guide us in the spirit of truth and unity. Oh, Father God, we ask you bless us today and every day as we continue to gather in your name, as you guide us, guide our tongues, our minds, and our souls to unify, O Lord, in your name. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Have a flag?
We don't have a flag, but we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, my name is Jamie Angel. I'm LSCG's Chief Communications Officer, and it's my pleasure to introduce Mayor-President Josh Guillory.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here.
Black Lives Matter. Save our Rex.
All right.
Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
Black Lives Matter.
This is a chance for you.
Save our Rex.
This is a chance for you to speak.
Good trouble. This is good trouble.
If you want to be heard, take your seats.
Save our Rex. Save our Rex. This is good trouble. This is good trouble. Black Lives Matter. All recreation centers matter. This is good trouble. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Save our Rex. Save our Rex. This is good trouble. This is good trouble. Black Lives Matter. Our Rex matter. We want our Rex. Black Lives
We
Matter.
want to give you a chance to be heard.
Save our Rex. Save our Rex. This is good trouble. This is good trouble. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. This is good trouble. This is good trouble. Save our Rex. Save our Rex. Save our Rex. Black Lives Matter. Save our Rex. Save our Rex.
All right, we can either continue with this and everyone gets a chance to be heard, or we can shut it down.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Save our Rex. 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 Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Save our Rex. Save our Rex. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, thank you. I appreciate you. We can't have a town hall meeting if we're not talking.
If you would like a chance to be heard, you have an hour to have a conversation with the Mayor-President.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Yeah, we'll wait.
No justice, no peace. 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 No justice, no peace.
How's it feel to be silent? Because
Defend our children. Defend our rec centers. Defend our rec centers. Unite this city. 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 Black lives matter. 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 Save our rec centers. 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 No peace. 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 Take your knee off our neck. Off our neck. Get your knee 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 off our neck. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Black children matter. Black children matter. Black children matter. Black children matter. Black children matter. Black people matter. Black people matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. No justice. No peace. No racist. No peace. No justice. No peace. No racist. Police. 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 Save our rec centers. 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 Save our rec centers.
Do you hear us? Do you hear us?
Save our rec centers.
Well, how could I not?
Well, let's have a discussion about it. Let's have a discussion about it.
Save our rec centers. Save our
No peace. No racist police. We deal with this daily. Stay north side. No peace. No justice. No peace. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. Wait, this is good trouble. 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 Save our rec centers. Save our rec centers. Our children are more important than a tennis racket and a golf club. Our children are more important than tennis courts and golf courses. Our children are more important than training. Save our rec centers. Save our rec centers. Save our rec centers. Save our rec centers. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Northside families matter. No justice, no peace. We won't be silenced. Y'all did it last night, but it's not going to happen again. No peace. Hear our voices, hear our cries. No peace. No community. No brothers, no sisters. No peace. No peace. This is us. No peace. Now do you see us? Do you see us now? Do you hear our pain now? Do you feel us? Our children are dying in the streets. They need the rec system. Hear us now. We won't be silenced. Save our rec centers. Save our rec centers. Save our rec centers. A smile is not
can't breathe. Save North Lafayette. 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 Save North Lafayette.
How about instead of catchphrases, we speak in paragraphs?
Save North Lafayette. 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 Save our rec center. Save our rec center. Save our rec center. Save our rec center.
In response, how about treating the north side of town fairly with equality, a balanced Lafayette Parish? How about that?
Save our rec center. Save our rec center. Save our rec center. Save our rec center.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Our rec center. Save our rec center. Save our rec center.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. What I would recommend is that we have a conversation about it. But I do appreciate it.
Respect North Lafayette. Respect North Lafayette.
All you do is lie.
It don't feel good to be silent, does it, Josh?
You're not fair.
Your parish council did that to us last night.
Respect North Lafayette.
They silenced us last night. It don't feel good, does it?
Respect North Lafayette.
We all have a right to eat. North side is hungry. We want to eat too. It don't feel good to be silent, does it? Respect North Lafayette. You can shut us down.
Respect North Lafayette. You won't shut us down. Respect North Lafayette. You won't shut us down. Respect North Lafayette. You won't shut us down. Respect North Lafayette. You won't shut us down. Respect North Lafayette. You won't shut us down. Respect North Lafayette. You won't shut us down. Respect North Lafayette. You won't shut us down. Respect North Lafayette.
We won't stop either.
Respect North Lafayette. You won't shut us down. Respect North Lafayette. You won't shut us down. Respect North Lafayette.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you 5 more minutes. Shout as loud as you can. I hear you loud and clear, but I got 5
This
more
is
minutes.
good trouble. This is good trouble.
And I agree. 5 minutes.
No justice, no peace. 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 Black lives matter. 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 Save our rec centers. 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 Save our Lafayette. Save North 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 Lafayette. North side matter. 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 North side Northside matters. 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 Northside matters.
All right. So I would much prefer to have a conversation with you, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave if we cannot control ourselves. So, all right, again, I'd much rather talk to you. I'd much rather talk to you. I'd much rather talk to you. But ladies and gentlemen, this is not fair to our neighbors that have filled out blue cards and that want to have a dialogue. And I'd much rather have a dialogue with you so we can exchange ideas and talk. But this is not productive. This is not productive. So, look, let's go ahead and get everybody out that's causing trouble. I'm going to sit right here. Nope, I'm going to sit right here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, anybody that wants to stay for the town hall can stay for the town hall, but we're not going to allow disruptive behavior. So, I ask you out of respect to go ahead and sit down and let's have a dialogue. But if not, we're going to ask you to leave. So, Chief, if you could enforce that, I appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your patience. Hey, look, you know, we live in America. People can protest. That's okay. Many people died for that right. I know I surely support the First Amendment. And while, you know, time, place, and manner, I don't know if that was necessarily the most respectful way to exercise your thoughts, but, you know, we respect peaceful protests. And I think the underlying message, I believe we probably all agree with. You know, we all want justice. We all want equality. Again, not to belabor the point, but a lot of people died for that freedom, and we have to respect that. If we don't allow that to happen, then what kind of country are we? And what kind of leader am I if I can't hear my people? You know, again, wouldn't be necessarily the way I would communicate my ideas, but to each their own, and we respect that. So that being said, I do appreciate your patience, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to come and spend some time with us. I really do look forward to these town halls. It's something that we started a little later due to our COVID response, and the rest of the country was in that field with us. But I do look forward to these. This is one of the opportunities where I get to hear from you straight from you to me, and you may have some questions that sometimes the media won't ask, or it doesn't come up in a council meeting, and that's okay. And I don't promise to have all the answers, but I do promise to tell you the honest truth. If I don't know, I'll get you the answer real quick. And so thank you to our communications team. I do want to recognize a council member we have today. Doyle Boudreaux is front and center. He is a councilman in the awesome town of Scott, the Boudin capital of the world. Do we have any other elected officials here?
Did he bring some Buddha?
He may have brought some Boudin. I don't know. He has a Boudin pin. I recognize it. So, all right. Well, that being said, let's go ahead and get to our, and also, ladies and gentlemen, I do have a hard 1 o'clock, and, you know, it's kind of cut short due to the recent events, but that's okay. We'll get through it. And if we do not get to your question today, as long as we submit it, I'll get an answer to you very quickly through email, through our communications team. So again, thank you for your patience, your understanding, and thank you for caring enough about our community to come and have these discussions. This is where true progress begins. It's when we're talking as neighbors. All right.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. First up, Mr. Jay Caldwell. He's got a question about volunteers utilized in LCG. Mr. Caldwell, if you come up to the podium here, and also if you came in earlier while the other things were happening and you didn't know, if you want to ask a question, go ahead and grab one of these blue cards in the back and fill it out with your name and your topic. Go ahead, Mr. Caldwell.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
How you doing, Mr. Caldwell?
Thumbs up. Glad to see my congressman, my councilman from Scott. I've been living in Scott for 45 years, but I've been living in Lafayette since 1956.
There we go.
My question to this is, I know, Mr. Mayor, you're scrutinizing everything. Everything's on the table. Have you considered an outreach to senior, seasoned citizens about volunteerism in any capacity within the city that might need that? Maybe getting a talent bank of people. I'd called Mr. Harvin's office a while back, and I haven't had a meeting with him yet because of the COVID, but I had a couple of ideas, but I just wanted to run it by you to see what you thought about it, because I know you had said everything's on the table, better utilization of existing revenue, cut back as needed, but we do have something that could kind of boost that, would be some volunteers. An example, several years ago, I did some work in the jail teaching math to some of the people that were looking for GED degrees. So I really think this is something that needs to be looked at. I just wanted to share it with you today. I've never been to a town hall meeting before. A little surprised of it, but I'm glad you're having it, and thank you for all the work you're doing. I know you've had many sleepless nights, and you served a lot of food over here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
During the pandemic, so that's my question.
Well, thank you. It's good to see you again. We met probably 10 months ago, 12 months ago, and you know, I thought the world of you then. I still think the world of you. This is a very timely question. Carlos and I were talking about that recently as we're, you know, approaching the rec center situation, which, by the way, we will remedy. We will fix that. I'm very confident in that. But part of the fix, part of the solution is relying and partnering up with our community. So to answer your question directly, yes. And I think that's a great idea. If we could create as a community this volunteer bank, like you said, you know, and have some and I'm trying not to put my military hat on too much, but, chain of command type leadership and communication. So if take the rec centers, for example. Let's say Domain needs some volunteers. Well, instead of just having volunteers just for Domain, just for Como, just for Robichaux, Hyman, etc., let's have a force. Let's have a community force. It's an idea. Now we're in the infant stages of planning that out, because if we do, we want to do it right. But I think you're on to something. I encourage you. Bishop Harvin's here, and you guys can definitely exchange. And I appreciate your patience with COVID and city halls across the state and country being shut down to the public. But we definitely don't shut down our services to the people, even under those circumstances. So I love that idea, and I'd welcome any feedback from anybody else. On the rec center, the 4 rec centers at issue, I just want to remind everyone, and I hope our neighbors out there get this message loud and clear. We will find a way. I am more confident today than I was yesterday. I was more confident yesterday than I was the day before. I believe that you shouldn't go to people with a problem without a recommended solution. One recommended solution is public-private partnerships, sponsorships, naming rights, all things we haven't tried. But one thing that is a constant, and these are facts, one thing that is a constant is our money supply isn't what it used to be, and that's okay. That's all right. We're going to get back. Our economy is going to get back rolling. Just because we change courses doesn't mean we have to turn our back on the services that these 4 rec centers provide. So I want to make sure that we all are on the same page. 0 parks are closing. 0 parks are closing. Of the 4 rec centers that were named, if we can't get a public-private partnership, if we can't find that outside-the-box magic answer, I am confident after speaking with the interim director of Parks and Recs that we can reallocate our resources, shuffle them around so that there is that shared liability, that shared responsibility, so that we can keep our 10 rec centers open. Again, August 14th is right around the corner, and every day that goes by, I feel more and more confident that we're going to get this problem solved. But I believe that this protest, and the reason why I let it go on so long, because I don't think it's the rec centers, because if it's the rec centers, you're not listening to me. I've said plenty, my message is not getting across. We're going to find a way. I think it's something deeper than that, and that's why I was okay with that. There is this sentiment, not more than sentiment, there's some facts behind that sentiment. What happened in Minneapolis, for example? Everyone should be appalled by that. Everyone should be appalled by it. And maybe there is an underlying issue there across our country. Maybe this dialogue needs to happen. Maybe this discussion needs to happen. We're not going to run from that in Lafayette, Louisiana. We're going to have those discussions, even if it's uncomfortable, tough, or whatnot, because we're better than that. So that didn't bother me earlier. But Mr. Caldwell said yes is the answer.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
That's a long answer to give you yes, right?
I just want to add, I'm going to supplement your answer. We have an icon that you hired on your staff that could not think outside the box. He could bring the box outside, and that's Hollis Conway. Yeah. This guy he's an icon in the community. And we need to utilize him somewhere in the rec center or somewhere in your administration. You got him in a good position, but I think we can max him out with a little bit more. Thank you.
I'll give you a double amen because he's a 2-time medalist in the Olympics. So.
You're right. He's been to the top, so he can bring us back there.
Literally. No, Hollis is good. And let me tell you guys, there's some things going on in community development that overlaps with Parks and Recreation. We had to make some tough decisions about 2 months ago, too, as we have these budget constraints. And Hollis, Director Conway, who's over community development, really found some outside-the-box ways, like Mr. Caldwell said, to get the services that may be cut back in the works and back in progress. We want to use that same model, that same mentality with Parks and Recs. We're going to get there. When you do something new, it can alarm some folks and some people. I'm the same way. I'm a creature of habit, but we just don't have we honestly do not have an option at this time. We cannot continue to do the same thing and expect different results, and we just can't. And just not to belabor the point, but I think it's important that we have this conversation. Just know that Parks and Recs, for example, since that's the issue, it is funded several ways. One, there's a dedicated millage, and then this department is one of these departments that actually generates revenue from rentals and things like that. And then there's this third bucket. Okay, so my philosophy is you live within your means, just like families and businesses across our parish have to do. You live within that millage and those revenues. But for years, there's been this third little bucket, and that's the city general fund. Think of it as your savings account. Well, that money is not endless. Before I took office, when I took office on January 6th of this year, we were already budgeted at an $18 million deficit. That means that we were going to take $18 million out of that fund balance, that savings account, not just to fund Parks and Recs, but across in several areas. Well, COVID comes, and the updated forecast is an additional $10 million loss. So now you're looking at $28 million that we don't have, that's going to be taken out of the savings account if we do nothing. So if we change no behaviors, if we didn't think outside the box, if we didn't find different ways to fund the rec centers, for example, then we would run out of that money in 2 to 2.5 years, and that's pretty scary. So I was at a Parks and Recs meeting Monday night, and one gentleman had mentioned, well, maybe we could have done this over a 5-year term, 5 to 10-year increments. Unfortunately, we don't have that option, and for the reasons I just said. So put that in perspective. From 2000 to 2019, I believe the subsidy totaled $61 million just to Parks and Recs. Keep in mind, you pay taxes already. This department has a dedicated millage and revenues coming in and some capital money coming in to build things. So to say that that's not enough and we're just going to take the easy route and not find ways to be innovative or creative, we're just going to keep taking from that savings account, it's reckless. So if we want to, I heard one of the chants, for lack of better words, or views expressed was like, build up North Lafayette, build the rec centers, improve them. We can't improve those without capital dollars. So the more we dip into that savings account, the less money we have. But again, let not your heart be at despair. We are going to find a way. I mean, the answers are out there, and I'm confident about it. What's our next question?
All right. Is Devon or Devin Norman still here?
He left.
All right. Ken Broussard, and he would like to talk about privatizing government functions.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you. First question, how does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees one in need and refuses to help?
Can you remove your mask and ask me? I couldn't understand.
Sorry.
That's okay. Because I have a feeling this is a very deep philosophical question that I hope
How
I have a
does
good
God's
answer.
love abide in anyone who has the world's good and sees one in need and refuses to help?
Yeah.
It's my understanding that the public golf courses need about $519,000 in annual subsidies. Is that correct?
I don't know if it's 500. I know that we cut the subsidies to the additional subsidies that would bridge that gap. We cut that in the budget that I submitted.
Okay.
And
But
they're
it took
good.
that this past year, right?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
So why not close one of those courses, or 2 of those courses, or 3 of those courses instead of the north side? And I don't understand why you would want to privatize government functions, because they operate from our funds, taxpayer funds. And we need to control those funds, not private corporations. I totally disagree with that stance, and I think it's a way of closing the government and silencing the people like today. But I would like to understand your thinking and what other areas you want to privatize in the city, please.
Thank you. And look, I think your concerns about a public or private, I'm going to use the word that you use, privatize it. I think those concerns are legitimate, and you should always have those. I know I do. So privatizing something is different than a public-private partnership. We look at public-private partnerships across the country. There are best practices that really probably around the world that we can build on. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. But the concerns that you have, we need to, as long as we address those in the public-private partnership, then there shouldn't be anything to worry about. For example, rec centers. If we just privatized it and we said, okay, here it is, do what you want with these buildings, that's not really, that's not doing a government function. That's not providing a service to it may be providing a service to the community, but not in the intent that the rec centers were built for and created for. I put out a request for proposal today. It went out today?
It's going out after
It's
this.
going out after this. Okay, it'll be out today. And it's a starting point. It's a starting point as far as how is this going to look like. But if you look at it, there are certain parameters in there. Fees, for example, must be approved by LCG. The reason why we put that is mainly a lot of the concerns that you're expressing. We don't want low to moderate income individuals that ordinarily may use one of these 4 rec centers, for example, to be charged to use a weight room. We don't want that. And I said this the other night, I'll reiterate it. If we can, just imagine, if we can find a way to provide those services, as you mentioned, government services, government functions, in a way that doesn't burden the taxpayers, why wouldn't we do that? I mean, think about it. Now, there's an assumption. There's an assumption in what I'm saying. There's the strong assumption that we have rules in place, that you don't capitalize on the most vulnerable of our population, that you operate the rec centers for the intent that they were created to operate in. Unless you knew, I mean, the idea is unless you knew that this was a partnership between a nonprofit or whatnot, unless you knew, you wouldn't know. Like, you wouldn't be able to know the difference. You walk into a rec center, you'd be able to use the rec center. You'd be able to use the basketball court. You want a pickup game? Go do a pickup game. Ping pong's there. You still playing ping pong. And I feel like there's a way to do that. There's, like I said, there's other models across the country that we can utilize or we can build on. All right. But I appreciate you. I think you make good points.
Is Agnes Corville still here? Tara Laxey? Takuma El-Shabazz? Jervis Williams? Nick Celestine? And his topic is Black Lives Matter.
All right. Mr. Celestine?
How
Hey,
you
Mr.
doing,
Celestine.
man? My name's Nick Celestine.
Hey, Nick.
I'm not used to this sort of, this is my first time at a town hall meeting. I guess I'll introduce myself a little bit. I grew up in we call it a small town called Sunset Grand Coteau, right?
Yeah.
And,
Rolling terrain.
I guess so.
It's pretty.
And I've lived in Lafayette off and on for about 10 years now. I stayed on the south side most of my time here in Park Place and Diamond Lakes. But for the past year and a half, I've lived off of St. Antoine in Marie Street. And I used to think I grew up in the hood, but I realized living here I'm a country boy. And the thing about the hood, I can walk within a tenth of a mile, and I could buy a pack of cigarettes, I could buy some liquor, but I gotta, if I wanna walk, I gotta walk over a mile at least to get some onions or any type of fruit. And in these stores that's inside my community, it's no one that looks like me that owns these stores. So I know that the intentions are not for the good of my people, right? And I don't know why God is, I'm a man of God, and I don't know why, I'm starting to see why God is starting to draw me to these type of environments, because he asked the question, how can a man of God with the world in his hands not, keep it to yourself or distribute it to the people you want to have it, right? And God showed me, it's in Mark 7. It says, when Jesus, you're a man of God, right? So you appreciate this type of story. When Jesus came in with his disciples around the Pharisees, they were going to eat a meal, right? And I can just imagine his disciples just weighing in because they were hungry. They were on the road, and their hands were dirty. And the Pharisees were stuck on like, oh, their hands are dirty. Why you let them go out and eat like that? And he's like, you hypocrites. You serve me with your mouths, but your hearts are far from me. And that's just what I start to feel. Like, I've been following you a lot. Every time you speak, I've been watching, whether it's on AOC, on the internet, anything I can find. And it's a lot of lip service. It's nothing genuine. People share their hearts, and when they're gone, you smirk, and you give an answer that takes all kind of different routes that doesn't really address their hearts. So, and I've learned as being a believer, there are a lot of men on pulpits whose hearts are far from God, in positions whose hearts are far from God. And when you see people screaming like this, I don't agree with some of the, like, how they came, but they feel like they have no other choice because they tried to talk to you normally and you've given them runaround and you haven't addressed their hearts. They feel neglected. I mean, me living here in Northside, on a normal week, 4 nights out of the week, I hear gunshots, right? And I'm talking about heavy artillery, you know, da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Mr. Celestine, we're a little short on time.
I understand that.
I
I understand that.
To address you.
I appreciate that, but I'm gonna finish my story. I hear gunshots every night. I've talked to one cop in my entire time, year and a half, and it was for something that wasn't even dealing with that, right? So when you hear these people screaming, they've been neglected for so long, and I could see it. I could see it in my community. They don't have hope. They don't have hope. And I've lived on the north side, and a dollar store on the south side, the products are cheaper on the south side than the north side. You know, in a store, and it's the same stores. So I think, like you said, we don't have 5, 10, whatever. The savings money, that's what savings is for situations like this. So I think we have to address this north side. And as far as volunteers, I'm willing to volunteer. I'm willing to volunteer for whatever, because I know that the only way people that look like me are gonna feel comfortable is if for people like me to be the ones to address them. And Mr. Harvin, I appreciate you, but you see, situations like that, there's no reason that those people should have been led outside. You know, the leader of Minority Affairs has to be the one to go and speak to those people, and they respect you enough to sit down and let the meeting go on, and they can come to this mic and
Mr.
let their voice
Celestine,
be heard. That's all I got.
I apologize,
All
but
right,
we have
appreciate
to
it.
move on.
Well, I definitely appreciate it, and I had to take a little note here. I'm gonna try to address everything that you asked. I'll go backwards. So the savings account, you know, I agree that the savings account, the general fund, should be used for emergency situations, and I would go one step further, and one-time capital improvements, building a road, building an improvement at a rec center, playground, things like that. But what we've used this savings account for in the past is for recurring expenses, salaries, overhead, that comes every single year. And you just can't sustain at that level. As I explained, you know, you have the $18 million deficit when we came in, additional $10 million, which I think everybody here can understand the economic impact of COVID-19. So we have to change our ways. We have to change our spending habits. But when I'm going to try to address this the best I can, because you're hitting on something really, really important, and I don't know the answer. But I recognize that there's something there. This is deeper, you know, it's much deeper. It's not about rec centers. It can't be, because I'm telling you that we're going to find a way to make this work. I'm very confident that we can, within the parameters, the spending parameters we have. I'm just confident that we can do that. But there's something deeper. You know, when you had mentioned, you know, get your knee off my neck. You know, it's a common chant across the country. Well, thank God we hadn't had that specific incident in Lafayette. But let me tell you, I'm not so naive to not listen to other, maybe some examples that didn't cause death, but, you know, maybe there's some areas where we can improve on, whether it's race relations, policing, neighborhood policing, or whatnot, to make sure that never does happen to Lafayette. So this volunteer group that we're discussing, it can go, we don't have to limit ourselves to just volunteer man hours. It can be a communication tool. It can help us to make sure that we're one. You know, I'm just still the eternal optimist, I guess, for our country. There has got to be a day in our future where we're not a north side, south side. There's got to be a day in our future in this country where we don't have these racial tensions. But we can't sit here today and ignore that there are some things we have to talk about, and that's okay. You know, that's okay. I mean, I think the intent behind the individuals that were protesting, look, there's some merit there. You can't be so naive as a leader, in my opinion. We can't be so closed-minded, naive to not understand that and recognize that. But we also have to be objective and make sure that we're listening to everything and examining things with a true and open mind and see if we can do good. So I hope I answered your question. And as far as this smirk thing, you know, guys, I guess I can't control my facial expressions, but it's not coming from a bad place, I promise you. Next question.
He smirks when he talks to me sometimes.
I try to smirk. Smile. Sometimes you gotta smile so you don't cry, you know?
All right, Deborah J. Milson.
That's what my grandmother would say.
Ms. Deborah. And she wants to talk about raises during
All right.
budget cuts.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
This is my first time coming to a town hall, and I wanted to come because I'm concerned about what's going on in the community. My question actually was, while you were considering your budget cuts, I have been informed, and you can correct me if it's not correct, that there were also some raises that were given. Leadership requires that you consider everything when you're making decisions. And I'm sure as a politician you understand the need that things need to look good too. And this doesn't look good that you gave raises. Raises were approved while you were considering budget cuts during this cycle. My second thought, because you've shared some information, Mr. Broussard shared some information about the subsidy for the golf courses. And while you did state that you made adjustments to that, I did not hear you say that you would consider utilizing those funds to try to rectify this situation. Again, this young man said you tend to go around and not directly to. The other thing, sir, is if we are going to address the issue, then I think you need to bring the people who are being impacted the most to the table. The protesters came and they said what they had to say, but maybe it's time for you to sit down and talk to them about what needs to be done. If we have 10 recreation centers in this community, we should continue to have 10. So you have to find a way. As a leader, it's your responsibility. You have not just a political responsibility, but as a leader that was elected, people gave you a vote of confidence. That vote of confidence meant that you have a moral obligation to. You have an obligation to serve everyone, not just those on one side of the town and on the other side of the town. So you need to bring people to the table who are being impacted. You need to rectify this situation, sir, because if you don't, it's really going to end up being more divisive. You say you have some ideas, and I'm in agreement with Mr. Broussard. I don't think privatizing, just 1 minute, sir, just one minute. I don't agree with privatizing because you have someone coming in making plans for recreation centers and they don't live in the communities and they have no sense of the culture of the community. And the last thing is, sir, just a suggestion, the next time you have a town hall meeting, don't schedule a 1 o'clock meeting right afterwards.
Well, thank you. And Ms.
Milson.
Ms. Milson, did I say it correctly? Look, I thank you, and good points, and I just value your demeanor. It's very comforting. Just a side note. So look, I wrote some notes to make sure that I answer the question, so you hold me accountable. And if I didn't answer a question that you asked, just let me know. And first-time town hall. Is there anybody else first-time town hall? All right. This is good. So the raises. All I can say is if you compare my budget, the Mayor-President's budget, to the previous budget, we reduced spending by 24%. And I did that that means I cut my own spending before I asked any director to cut theirs. I believe leaders lead from the front, they lead by example, and I can't ask them to do something I wouldn't be willing to do myself. Now, when we got into this, and we've done at least one mid-year budget revision. I want to say we did two. As we do that, though, I'm constantly evaluating everything. And I know one individual that happens to be in the audience that got a pay raise. If I wish I could pay him more if we had more, just because I know that, quite frankly, the citizens are getting him at a bargain. He works tirelessly. I mean, I get there early and leave late, and there's many times he's there before me and after me, and I know that he's had to overcompensate on some areas in government that's really, quite frankly, outside of his call to duty, but he does it with a smile on his face, and he's a team player, and I appreciate that. And there's a couple other, but overall, I think the takeaway for our taxpayers, or the mayor-president's budget was reduced roughly 24%. I think that's the takeaway. The golf subsidy, and I wrote my notes, rec center, tie it in. We need a new model for our golfing as well. We have 3 publicly owned golf courses, and they do not bring the taxpayers money. While I do not disagree that they can improve quality of life, that's for sure. But that department, or that division of the Parks and Recs department is under heavy scrutiny as well. Now, the money that we cut, it was from the same pot. It was from the general fund. It was a subsidy, so we cut that subsidy as well to the golf courses. But I need everyone to know we have further analysis that needs to come to that division of the department. You mentioned something, find a way. I love that. Hollis Conway uses that all the time. Find a way, and it's true, and that's what we're doing. And you're seeing this play out in front of you. We're finding a way. We have a model right now, or we had a model that brought us to this point. Nothing bad, not pointing fingers, not saying someone or some individual or previous administrations were bad people. It's just a different way. Now that we all know the financial situation we're in, we have to make a decision. We have to make a change. I can't pull from a dedicated millage for some other drainage, for example, and use it to pay Parks and Recs. There's only 3 revenue sources. It's the millage, or the millage is for the Parks and Recs department, voted on by the taxpayers. That goes directly to the department. You have the revenues that the department brings in, and then you have, if it's there and it's the decision of the administration and the councils to dip into that savings account, you could do that. I don't mind dipping into the general fund. Matter of fact, I think you should dip into the general fund to spend it on one-time capital expenses, building a road, building buildings, repairing. I'll keep it on the Parks and Recs themes, repairing a playground or whatnot. In my opinion, that's money well spent. It's your money. The government shouldn't just hold on to it. And again, I want to just clarify, privatizing, I'm not looking to privatize the rec centers. I would agree and share in your concerns with that. Not saying that someone couldn't come in here and run a wonderful program, but there are models for privatization outside of LCG. But a public-private partnership is much different. We do public-private partnerships right now with the ACA, for example, and other entities. Scott has an example of doing some public-private partnerships. Maybe I could say it like this: the concerns that you have, I share with those concerns. We just have to make sure when we finalize, if this is the route that we need to go, that those concerns are addressed. Some concerns that I kind of think of is, I think the glaring obvious one is it must be used as a rec center. I mean, we're not going to enter into a public-private partnership with an entity coming in and they turn into a flea market or something. You know, that wouldn't be serving the people. Or let's say that public-private partnership, that entity comes in and they want to start charging all this money to use a gym. We would want to put protective measures in place. I think you said it, ma'am. We have 10. We need to keep them open. We need to keep them running. I would think you would agree with me. We need to keep them running the way the services remain the same, correct? Or you wouldn't disagree with me? Maybe even better. Imagine if we can come up with a model. I don't know if it's there. We're at the starting point. I mean, I put out my request for proposal. That's the starting point. Let's see what the community has. I really believe in our community. I really believe that there are good hearts, excellent minds out there, that people that want to help out and get our rec centers up and running. I can stay. And the 1 o'clock, We usually limit these to an hour, and I really wish I did not have to leave, but I think I can be late a little bit, though.
Okay. You only have 3 more questions,
Good,
so
but if we could just kind of be a little more direct, and I'll do the same.
quick and to the point. Jacob White,
Hey, Jacob.
and he wants to speak about the rec centers as well.
right.
Mayor-President Jamie, thanks. I'll be as brief as I can. I've been living here like 13 years, been in the same house for 12.
Great.
And I've made friends with my landlord and by not destroying the place, and I'm hoping at some point here soon to buy the place. I've been saving for a while. I have similar, budget challenges, so I can relate to local government. But my point is that, when I'm able to buy it, that asset is going to be something that, in the future, I'll be able to essentially be rat-holing money away. I see things like the rec center similarly. I know that because we have some nice parks close to my house, the property value is increased. I know that there was recently a poll taken locally, and 2 of the main issues were drainage and law enforcement. And that speaks to people's concerns. And I think that when we aren't able to fund things like rec centers, crime's going to go up. Crime needs opportunity. And when there aren't opportunities like rec centers, then that's crime will increase. And so it's one of those things where we don't immediately see the dollar value, but it is there. And so I don't know how to pay for it either. I mean, I'm with you, and I'm open to any sort of, anyway, that's the thought that's been in my head, so I wanted to bring that up, and I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing it up. I really believe many people, to include myself, agree with your concerns, your analysis, and your thought process. I just do. But I also recognize in our country we are in a very heightened situation where, and I'm not saying it's not justified either, okay? It's probably mostly justified to feel the way that people are feeling. Let's talk about rec centers and parks and how it relates, like you said, to maybe the home prices or values. If we continued the model that we had, and that was you just spend the millage, you spend the revenue, and then you dip in $3.5 million into your savings account, your general fund. If we continue that model, that additional revenue, that subsidies goes to pay in needless overhead. I would much rather take the savings, because our economy is going to come back. We know that. We've been through these times before. Allbus, dot-com bubble, moratorium. We've seen this here in Lafayette and Louisiana. We're going to bounce back. When we bounce back and that general fund starts to rise, and we're on good footing, financial footing, because of the decisions we're making right now, I'd much rather use that money for parks and recs, for example, to invest and make our parks even better, make our rec centers even better, but we would have the money, and those costs do not recur every single year. So property values go up. Our youth, I heard loud and clear over the last few weeks, and I understand. I'm a youth athletic coach volunteer for 10 years. I promise you, I feel you. But if we can take this money and invest back into our services for our people, that's your dollar, in my opinion, is being much better spent that way.
All right. Jacob, hey, I don't understand the handwriting.
He does that to me, too.
He's got terrible handwriting.
How do you say your last name, sir?
Hampshire. My name's Jacob Hampshire. All terrible handwriting aside, I have a question about the Lafayette Science Museum.
Yeah.
And potential budget cuts there. So what's the point of an 80% budget cut there? And real quick.
Sure.
Personally, as a student at the university, I've seen others utilizing that space, whether it be for just general education or paleontology or education on the oil industry in this area. It's a very useful and, in my opinion, it's important space.
Yeah.
And we need that place to stay open and well funded. I just ask you, what exactly is the point of such a large reduction in funds?
Thank you. And what's your major?
Geology.
All right, good deals. I would see why you would like the Science Museum. Make sure you check out Vermilionville too. They have good stuff over there. It's through the BVD. Okay, the Science Museum is in a very similar situation that as our rec centers. The Science Museum falls under community development, and it too has been receiving a very large subsidy from you, from the taxpayers. I think in the tune of 1.2 million. I know it's over $1 million that we've been subsidizing that particular museum. Okay, it is. I tell you, if you walk through, if you ever visit it, it's remarkable. It is a jewel. It's a jewel we can't afford right now, and that's the bottom line. If you look at its business model, and I say that very loosely because it's a government-owned entity at this time, compare the Science Museum's model of operation to just right down the road, the Children's Museum. A lot of public-private partnerships there, a lot of public dollars there, whether through grants and things like that, but totally different financial situations. It's not a coincidence. So just like we're approaching the rec centers, the Science Museum too, we just have to reevaluate the model. We know for all the reasons that were said earlier, we can't afford to continue to subsidize it. That does not mean we turn our backs on it. So as it stands right now, the people through LCG owns the building. We're going to make sure that the building is secure and that it's up, the air conditioner's running, that it doesn't deteriorate. So we want to protect the asset owned by the people, and then we're just going to try to find a way to open it back up. I cannot guarantee, and I do not want to mislead you. It does not look terribly bright from a financial situation on the Science Museum. My priorities, just in full candor, is geared towards these 4 rec centers at a much higher level of urgency than the Science Museum at this time, but that doesn't mean that we're turning our back on it. Hollis Conway, mentioned him earlier. I don't know, he worked with Carlos too. We're working on some stuff. There's some possibilities there. When you go back to UL, ask Dr. Saville. I'm gonna put him on the spot since we got cameras. See if he wants to take it over.
That's that seems more like a you job. Sorry there.
You don't want to do it? Man, I was trying to enlist you. No, I'm kidding. No, but I think you get my intent. We just got to keep communicating with other stakeholders that might have an interest in this to be able to bring back the services and not dip into our subsidy or not create a subsidy.
Last question, and again, we ask you to keep it brief. Latarsha, did I say that right? Latarsha Howard?
Yes, sir, it is.
Miss Howard, you have been waiting so patiently.
Oh, I have. I have. My baby, look.
Thank you.
I'm going to start by saying God bless y'all.
God bless you.
And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
My first and foremost thing is I'm a mother, like you're a father. If you have kids, I'm pretty sure everyone can relate. Okay, I hear you saying about these budget cuts and about how you can't put money on education. These centers, I work with kids in youth development myself. Self-confidence, things that they may not be able to learn at home. They look for our leaders of the community, like myself, to be able to be there for them, to teach them some of the things that they're not learning at home, to get some of the education that they're not getting at school. Me, myself, due to COVID, I wouldn't advise people sending their kids to school. Why? Because to me, that it impacts the home life. So what I'm hearing in this space right now is that you're valuing education amongst our youth, that you're taking our tax-paying dollars and taking it and comparing it to, okay, well, what does the golf course have to do with kids learning with their math, with their science, stuff like that? I hear you saying that you're taking that the Science Museum isn't of budget. Well, I understand that. But see, there's one side of the community, south side, that's more up and coming. North side, there's budget cuts and everything else above and beyond, okay? So what I'm saying to you is, how do you expect to not handicap our kids as they're growing up just because it's either one or two of the skin color or one of two of the other side is not making as much money? How do you compare these kids with the education levels to budget cuts? How can you say that you're gonna put together these other things like the golf courts? Why don't you take some of that money and reduce it to where What if we have the nonprofit organizations like myself? I myself take time with kids up on myself and tutor them, to take the ones that have autism, like my son, he has autism. He went to J. Wallace James. You understand what I'm saying? So I see that there's kids that are struggling with academics. They may not be having that help at home. They come and they learn these things at school, at the centers, to where there are people like me that can have a group of kids and that can handle it and be able to teach these kids, so therefore they can grow and process and be able to grow and plant harvestful seeds. We have this economics that we have to be able to uphold. Nowadays, you can't get a job if you don't have an education. So now you're hindering them from learning and being able to grow in a positive atmosphere. Yes, school is good, but hey, listen, sometimes school isn't enough. These kids here, sometimes they don't gather what's at school. Why? One or two reasons. There's teachers, they're underpaid. For one, they don't want to really take the time out to give extra, like talking about. They have to sometimes come out of their pocket and give to these kids. Sometimes these kids come to school for them to eat, for them to be able to have love, for them to be able to be around like-minded kids, for them to understand, hey, there's different other people. These things right here with the budget cuts, I don't understand that level of value when it comes to education in these kids. It may not be me, myself, but I mean, there's other people. And I know y'all have meetings, but this is my thing. If you take time for yourself, you take time for your seed, you should be able to take time for everyone else in the community. If you take time to put aside things like the golf courts and everything else, like the tennis, that will not help a child do science projects, learn. Y'all got raised. What about these teachers? They having overtime, they doing other things and coming out of their pockets. How they're going to get reimbursed for half of the things that they're doing? They're caring about these kids. I would suggest and advise that people of God and true leaders, that y'all take that into consideration. That's all, and y'all have a good day.
Powerful. Thank you. Thank you. No, you did great. Okay, so again, I'll work backwards. So the school situation with teachers, you're right, by the way. There's a lot of educators and teachers' assistants, too, that don't make as much as teachers that are coming out of pocket and doing that. So I encourage all of our nonprofit organizations to try to help find ways to help supplement these warriors in our education front. Now, the school schools and teachers are regulated by the school board, so LCG wouldn't have any direct influence, control, jurisdiction, or pay. So I have no control, how they get reimbursed and things like that. But it doesn't mean that we can't work through the Office of Community Development, for example, to work with, because Lafayette is deemed what's called an entitlement city in the federal government. And all that means is that we're able to apply for federal grants, and we do a good job with that, bringing in HUD dollars, for example. So I would encourage you to reach out to Hollis Conway, everybody actually, if you have some ideas like this. The worst case scenario, you bring up an idea, we can't do it, well then we can't do it. But it doesn't help anybody if we keep it to.
Everything is possible through Christ Jesus.
Amen. You can say that 20,000 times, it wouldn't be enough. Amen to that, and I mean that. But I'm touching on, even though I don't have control or jurisdiction, I'm touching on it because I share in your passion and your belief with that, and I think that if we continue to create awareness, that it can't hurt. Now, one thing we can help LCG through educating our children is to find a way to keep these rec centers open, in which, again, I'm confident we're going to do. I put August 14th as our deadline. I feel like we're going to be able to make something happen. I don't think we'll have the permanent fix by August 14th in full fairness, but that doesn't mean we can't go to an alternate plan, which may, and I've talked to the interim director, where maybe we reallocate some resources from Como Rec Center, Robichaux, for example, and we spread it out so that we keep these rec centers open while we figure it out. It may be at reduced hours, but it'd be reduced hours across the board. Everybody's treated fairly, and we find a way to essentially bridge that gap. That's that subsidy I keep saying. All I'm saying is we got to find a way to fix that, and we will. Tax dollars. You're right. You do pay tax dollars. So I just want to reiterate. In what branch? Way smarter than us. We're Army guys. Any other veterans? What branch?
Army,
who? I know who you are now. I couldn't recognize you. Good deal. All right, well, thank you for your service. You too, Hua. So tax dollars, it's just to reiterate, if we just I want us all to be on the same page. This department, Parks and Recs, has a millage for capital, has millage to come in to pay for it. It's roughly a little bit over $3 million each year. It also brings in some revenues. In the past, historically, about $400,000, $500,000. Okay, that's without the savings account. Okay, that's what we're able to use to fund this department. Now, in the past, this reserve, this savings account, this general fund, city general fund, a little bit of the parish, would be used to basically pay salaries and pay things that I'm not downplaying decisions that were made in the past. I'm just saying we cannot financially afford that going forward. But hope should not be lost. All that means is we find a way. As our friend Miss Milton, I believe, she left, but.
Can I suggest the motto?
All right.
Do the motto as whole in one, so therefore we can be able to come all together and then knock everything out in one?
I don't know what you mean by that, but I'm open to hearing it.
When we take ourselves and unify ourselves, work together as one, then maybe we can come together as a community and see the development ourselves and go from there. That's when I make.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Anybody disagree? That's, I like that. Yeah, he's a golf guy. WHOLE. Look, this is why I do the town halls, is to hear you, and so that we can be one. And we do try to rotate a little bit, and you know, I'm a mayor-president, so I have my mayor hat on, but also have my parish president hat on. We're going to do some town halls in our municipalities as well. Maybe the Boudin capital of the world, since you're representing.
If there's free Boudin.
No, I'm just kidding. But one thing I've learned in the 6 months that we've been in office, 7 months we've been in office, is as I go across the parish, I can tell you, and when I go to Baton Rouge, and when I go, you know, speak to our representatives in Washington and representatives across the country in Washington, we are stronger when we speak as one, as you mentioned, whole in one. Did I say it right?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use it. But we're stronger when we speak as one. Now, we can't just speak as one. We got to be as one. We got to be a family. And sometimes at the family dinner table, you have disagreements. Anybody ever watch football on Thanksgiving or Christmas? You're not always going to agree with your aunt and uncle, but doggone, that's your aunt and uncle. That's your cousin. You know, so like take for example the individuals that were protesting earlier. That's our family. This is our community. You know, we could ignore and disrespect, and you know, or we can try to find some common ground, which I think is what everybody wants. But I'm telling you, there's something deeper out there. So let's all keep our eyes and ears open and be open-minded. Come to people with an open heart, and I'll do the same. So I wish I could stay later, guys. Do we have any other questions?
That was it. We had some that were sent in, you know, online earlier, but we'll get to those.
So if you're watching and your question you submitted online, we didn't answer at the town hall, we will reply very soon. And when I get back to the office, I'll work with you to give those answers. And I really appreciate everybody taking the time to come out here. We've been rotating the times, morning, evening, lunchtime, just to try to catch as much of an audience as we can, because I know everybody's busy. Look, stressful times out there, guys, but you know, we've been through tough times as a community. We have. Maybe nothing like this, I'll give you. And maybe not as many things going on to the severity they're going on all at the same time like we're witnessing now. But you know where our heart is in this community. And you know where our strength is, and that's with each other. And that is more than a catchphrase. So we're going to get through this. All right, I encourage you, for all our first-time town hall participants, thank you. I am humbled by that. I really am. So please keep coming out. And is that what it is? See, we got this. We can bring it. All right. If I walk out though, are you gonna stick around? I really do have to run. I'm running a little late for my 1 o'clock. God bless you guys. I ask for God's blessing on all of you in our parish and our country, and better days are ahead. God bless you. Thank you.
And if you'd like to participate in the town hall meeting next month, but you may not be able to make it, you can always email your questions anytime beforehand, townhall@LafayetteLA.gov. That's townhall@LafayetteLA.gov, or you can submit them via Facebook. Thank you.